Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be continuing the work with our project BedBug. But before that, I've got some good news and some bad news. So let's start with the bad news. In this episode, I was hoping to get on with the front suspension on Project BedBug. And what I need to do with this is I need to lower it, and I also need to narrow this front axle. But unfortunately, I'm going to save that for another episode, as I've found something else that really needs my attention first. And it's these areas in the back of BedBug, both sides. And at first glance, it looks pretty good. It looks quite solid. Doesn't seem to be much work there needed at all. But under closer inspection, there is actually small rivets. And then there's this area here that seems to be glued together. And you can actually see there's some rust appearing down there as well. But it's the underside of these panels which concern me the most. It turns out that this area here is just totally rotten. And you can see where there's bits of glue and all sorts of junk going on here. So I really need to look at this first. And this side's not much better. In fact, it's probably worse. You can see there's a plate above there that somebody's just glued or bonded in. And this section here has been screwed and riveted over the rot. And both areas on the back here are totally rotten through. And I did originally think that I could just cut these areas out, remake the panels and weld them in. But it's not that easy. It's the area behind that's actually rotten the most. And this is actually the good news bit, believe it or not, that I found the rot and how severe it is on the underside. If I didn't kind of do anything with it now and I've already bodyworked the car or even painted it, it might have been too late. So that's the plan in this episode. I'm going to try and sort out a bit more rot on Project BedBug. But before I do that, I'd like to show you guys what I've been getting on with on the inside. So something that I did need to look at was the underside of the skylight panels that we previously fitted. As you can see there, it's unfinished at the back there, and it has a great big gaping hole here. Not only that, this edge here is totally unfinished, very rough. It doesn't actually meet the panel at all. So what I've done is I've made a start on this panel here. I've added a section at the back there and also a triangular section here and also a panel here. Not only that, I've cut this line pretty straight along here and I've just pulled the panels together and welded along. And when doing work like this, I find it easier to just kind of make it up as you go along. What I've done is just made a couple of very simple shapes and then just tacked them into position. And once I was happy, then I could fully weld them in and then grind them back. And although it looks pretty complicated, it wasn't. The first bit I looked at was making a triangular section for that part there, which was just a triangular section. I just tacked it into position and I just rolled the edge round, trimmed it off and welded it. And the second panel I made was this one here. It looks like that there. I just tucked it in behind this windscreen panel and then welded it to the skylight panel. And the final panel was this one here. It's just a rectangular section of steel and I've just bent the edge over and then I've welded that into position too. So I've yet to get on with this section here, but I did template and cut out the repair sections needed so I can get on with that at a later date. And just now, as I was busy gassing about the repairs on the inside of the car, I've just had a load of parcels turn up, so let's get those open. So first up, I've got a can of this and some hardener. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I was doing the Beetle project, I used this stuff here, which is a special acrylic resin primer. It's designed to go over bare metal, and not only that, it's pretty good at holding rust back too. And the next thing we've got is a front blade bumper for a Beetle. The customer's hoping to use blade bumpers front and rear, and actually using a front bumper on the rear of BedBug. And in the next box we have a pair of bumper irons and some overriders as well. And the final box, I'm not entirely sure what's in this, but it has come from America. So in this box we've got an amazing steering wheel, look at that. Not only that, a really, really cool horn push. I mean, that is gonna look awesome. And then over here we've got some grills. These were for the crotch coolers that I didn't have at the time. These are the little grills to stop the bugs flying in and getting inside the vehicle. So here's the plan, and it's not going to look pretty. What I'm going to do is just start chopping out large sections of rotted area. I'm going to chop this brace out. Maybe I can do something with this at a later date. I'm going to cut this section out too. And underneath the wheel arch, well, this rotten area, that's got to go as well. But when I'm refabricating this area, I'm not too worried what it looks like. I'm not too worried if it looks original. But this rotten area here, well, that's got to look quite original, as there's a pressing line that goes here where the wing bolts on, and if I don't get this bit here right, the wing won't bolt on flush at the back. So what I've just done is cut out the rotten section from the inside here, and also the rusted section that was on the outside underneath the wheel arch. And here is this stuff I've cut out, and to be honest, well, it's just as well. I have no idea what half this stuff is. It's just a mangled mess of rot, sealant, and some, well, I don't know what that is. It's like a thin aluminium panel that somebody's bonded in. And as it goes, I'm going to do a bit more cutting. I'm really not happy with this area here. I have no idea what's going on. It seems to be a combination of overlap panels on top of rust and a little bit of genuine Volkswagen there as well. But I don't like it, so this section's coming out. So that's the underside of this area now repaired, and you can see there that I've done this in 3 sections. I made up a rear section here, a triangular section here, and then a strip along here. And it was just a case of roughly templating the area, roughly cutting out some panels, tacking them in, and making sure I was happy with the fitment. Then I welded them in, and then I trimmed them to shape. And of course, on an area like this, you don't have to spend time shaping it or anything like that. But to be honest, I think that if it does have a shape in there, it doesn't look like somebody has just slapped a panel on there. It does actually look like there's some thought involved. And what I've done at the rear edge here, I've actually left quite a generous section underneath here. I'm not quite happy with this corner as it is, and I'm not really happy with the way this wing fits at the back. So leaving a little bit of extra material here gives me a little bit of wiggle room to get this area to fit the wing nicely. And also just under here, there is a bumper mounting panel that's used on a Beetle, but my bumper will be fitted further in on the iron, so I didn't need this section, so I just cut it out, and then I just plug welded the holes that were left over from the spot welds. So the next area I need to attack is at the back here. I still need to grind down these welds, bare metal this area. I'd like to make like a return edge panel that goes across here, and then what I'm going to do is make a repair panel to go over the top. So what I've done is I've just ground down the welds and applied a light coat of zinc to those areas. But not only that, there was a bit of angle steel that was originally fitted around here behind this valance, and I kind of recycled it and just welded it into this position here. And then what I've done is I've just used a piece of cardboard to template this area for my repair panel. And then I just transferred my cardboard template onto a sheet of steel and formed this panel here. I did add 10mm just along this edge just so I could fold it up as a return edge, and also I've drilled it along this edge too. And I've done the same thing along this edge here. This is where it's going to sit above the angle line, and I've just deburred the back of it and sprayed a bit of zinc to these edges as well. And with that panel clamped into place, all I need to do now is weld it in position. So all these repairs in the back I've kept quite simple. I mean, I could go wild with this panel and start putting pressings and things like that if I had a bead roller, but there's another reason why I'm keeping this quick and simple. And the reason is temperature. Although I've got the windows open and the fan on in the workshop, I'm struggling to get the temperature down, and it's not even the hottest part of the day. My little thermometer there is saying it's currently 39.7 degrees in the workshop. So basically I am melting, and that means I'm taking extra breaks just to rehydrate, and then I'm coming back to this and doing it in little bites. So it's taking a little bit longer than I thought, but keeping it simple means I don't have to use too much brain power, which to be honest has melted too. So that's this panel welded into position. I've still got to finish it off. I've got a bit of grinding and tidying up to do. But not only that, I do need to extend the support here, weld that down, but also that triangular piece here, I wouldn't mind fitting that as well. So as you know, I don't sweat the small stuff. So what I'm going to do is get on with this mess. That's the other side. So what I've done on this side is I've attacked it exactly the same way as I've done the other side, cutting out the rotten areas and then remaking this area out of sheet steel. And just using cardboard templates, I was able to kind of remanufacture this panel here. And at this rear corner, being that it's pretty bad, it's missing. I still need to address this, which I'm going to do when I do the rear bumper. So I've just left this panel open. So with that panel now welded in, I was able to get on with making some little support legs both sides like this. And I haven't yet welded these in. I've still got a bit more to do. I still need to do something with this brace here. I wouldn't mind welding it back into position. That does mean I do need to add a little section at the bottom. So not completely finished, but I must say it certainly is a lot solid than it was before. And not only solid at the top, it's also solid at the bottom. Did manage to remanufacture this lower edge here. And also you can see up there, well, it's looking pretty good. So this kind of repair, well, it's not perfect, but it was done relatively quickly, which means it was done relatively cheaply. And this is great because initially I didn't see all the rot underneath. I only saw what was on these corners and I thought I could get away with just making a repair panel, but I was wrong. But I did manage to sort it out pretty quick, so I'm chuffed with that. And doing this kind of job in this intense heat does mean I was sweating a lot. You can see here that there's actually rust marks in the body where I was leaning over with my t-shirt and I didn't realize it, but my sweat has made the car rust. So that's some more things rattled off on Project BedBug. And as always, thanks guys for joining me and I'll see you next time. Cheers! I really, really need a cold shower.